Welcome back in. Jeff Schwaber is the managing partner of Stein Sperling, a law firm based in Rockville. The Daily Record recently recognized him for his leadership and service to the community. He's also a fellow Hoya Loya and in fact started something called Home Court at Georgetown Law. It's an annual charity basketball game between members of Congress and students and faculty that raises money for the Washington Legal Clinic for the Homeless. And Jeff is here with us now. Thanks for joining us and welcome to the show.
A pleasure to be here.
So first, let's talk about leadership and community service in the law. We actually recently had the DC courts on talking about the need for pro bono service, and that's one way that you give back to the community as a lawyer, and it's perhaps an easier, more organized way. But it's a really critical time, especially for lawyers, to find ways to give back to the community right now. So where are you finding outlets for that, and why are you prioritizing it?
Well, I've always prioritized it because of at Georgetown, the faculty, the teachers I had, the professors I had, one in particular, Florence Roisman, who taught me housing and homelessness law, and just made a huge impact on me. And the juxtaposition of Georgetown Law School on Capitol Hill, as you know, being right next to CCNV, which is the Community for Creative Nonviolence, the largest men's shelter in the country. So the largest law school in the country and the largest men's shelter in the country being a block from each other. And I would walk to school and pass that shelter, and it got to me. It got to me in a very intense way that we as lawyers have a duty and a responsibility to be a mouthpiece, not just for people who can afford lawyers, but for people who need a mouthpiece and people who need an advocate. And that never left me, and I credit my teaching and my professors at Georgetown.
You make a good point about where Georgetown is located. I too remember walking past the shelter, going to class. You obviously felt a calling to create what has now become a huge annual event, Home Court. Tell us a little bit about the inspiration for that and kind of how it's grown.
Well, the inspiration was, as I told you, I would walk past this shelter every day and had an experience there, a conversation/confrontation with a gentleman who was staying at the shelter, and it got to me, and I thought, it got me focused on the shelter, and I thought, how about we raise money for a refrigerator for the shelter? And I thought, looking over at the Capitol, I thought, how about a congressional basketball game? This was at a simpler...
That's ambitious.
Well, it was a simpler time. The Republicans and Democrats played basketball together daily in a gym, and I learned about that. My wife was on Capitol Hill. I learned about how the Hill worked a little bit, and I thought about this idea, and this professor I mentioned to you earlier, when I told her, said there's this new project that was hatched by the DC Bar called the Washington Legal Clinic for the Homeless. It was brand new, and it involved getting lawyers from law firms to volunteer their time in shelters and really leveraging pro bono activity in a grander way, and decided let's do it for that.
And you've had some high-profile participants in this basketball game.
Oh yeah. The very first game where our target was $10,000 and we raised $40, we had Bill Bradley, former NBA player, and Tom McMillan, former NBA player, and Bill Bradley was running for president at the time.
Helpful.
Had them. We've had, leadership from both sides of the aisle over the years. We've had some heated games, some close games, a lot of fun. And we just had our 39th year, which just proves I'm getting old, but we've raised over close to $17 million over 39 years, which was beyond anything I could have imagined that night this idea entered my head.
I bet. Well, I also want to make sure that we pay credit to Maryland and the community in Rockville as well, because that's where your office is based and you also do work there. Can you talk a little bit about, we only have about 45 seconds, but what you're seeing and needs in the Maryland community that lawyers can find a way to help? Because we have folks who watch this show who want to be able to give back.
Sure, and Stein Sperling, I found a home at Stein Sperling in a firm that really focuses on giving back and focuses on the responsibility to be leaders in the community, in Maryland, in Northern Virginia, in DC. And I think all lawyers carry that responsibility, whether it's through pro bono or just recognizing that now AI is a huge issue that my firm's focusing on, and we're trying to lead. People look to lawyers as trusted advisors to guide them through troubled times, and that's...
Even though the law is perhaps under attack like it hasn't been in recent memory these days. But
thanks for your help in changing that narrative.
well, Jeff Schwaber, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And when is the annual home court game?
We don't have a date yet for this spring, but it'll be a blowout. It's our 40th.
All right, 40th.
We'll keep you posted.
Okay. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll have more in the courts when we come back. Don't go away.